There we go. That's a little bit better. Council members, I'll just say talk directly into the mic and project like you don't have a microphone.
There it is.
But for the sake of our recording, we will with mic as well. Thank you all for being here this morning as we hear from our church council about the capital campaign and sort of next steps and updates on that. I am just here to open us in a word of brief prayer, so let us pray. Holy and loving God, send your Spirit as we dwell with your love and your grace, as we work towards caring for and stewarding the space and the ministries that make up Grace Lutheran. Be with our conversation as we listen and ask questions. Help us be curious and attentive. And we pray all this in the name of Christ. Amen.
Good morning. So we're going to just jump right off with council members introducing themselves. I'm Todd Walden. I'm your council president. I'm going to hand it off to Ginny here.
Kristen Bendixson, Vice President of the Council.
Elizabeth Lee, Treasurer.
Melissa Lowe, she, her. I'm the secretary.
I'm Bob Allen, a member of the council and also on the sanctuary visioning team that develops some of these needs for the sanctuary.
And I'm Doug Drosky, just a member at large on the church council, first year member.
And you all heard from Linda Lichty earlier in the service, and she's back in the corner. Thanks, Linda, for that amazing announcement earlier. You did a great job.
All right. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to talk a little bit about what we're going to cover today. So this is all about the capital campaign. The first and foremost, we're going to review the capital projects that we're thinking about. It's the same information that you saw in the letter that came out. Well, it's all about that. We're going to go a little deeper into some of it to discuss the hows and the whys. We're going to talk about the plan for addressing them, what the timeline is going to look like, both for the capital campaign itself and for the projects within the capital campaign. We want to talk a little bit about what a capital campaign is. I'm sure many people in here have been through capital campaigns before, but we probably have people who haven't. So we want to give you an overall idea of what a capital campaign is, what the plan is, how that works, and what that's going to look like as we approach it, which we are doing rapidly. And then at the end, we have a Q&A. We want to get everybody's feedback on what they saw, hear any questions that you have, address anything like that. We also will have a frequently asked questions, so you'll be able to look at some of those too after you leave here. If you didn't come up with a question right on the spot and wanted to ask us as you're driving away, you think, oh, I wish I'd asked. There's a good chance it'll be in our frequently asked questions, and as we hear more from all of you, we'll be adding to that and expanding it so that we get everybody's questions answered. Let's see. Okay. I would recommend naming our awareness that this is coming at a challenging time, and we're sensitive to that. That said, we still want to dream, and we will discern and adjust as we go through the next few years, knowing that political and economic turbulence is real. I don't want anybody to think that hasn't come up in our discussions. Obviously, we are as aware of the situation that we're in as anybody, but as we've talked, one of the things that we've realized is that turbulence is also what's making the mission inside and outside of this building that's part of all of us more important than ever. That's why we think it's still important to go forward with this. That's why we think people are still going to be ready to support a capital campaign. We can do a lot, and right now the world needs us to do a lot. So we're going to keep pushing through with that. From there, I'm going to hand this over to Ginny, and she's going to talk from a higher level about what the capital campaign is.
So you can all see on the slides some of what we've put here, and I just want to say that a capital campaign is to raise the funds for the projects that are outside of the typical operating budget. This is not the keep the lights on. This is the bigger projects that we need to do to maintain our space, some of which has been put off for many, many years. I know some people were here when we redid the roof after there were several leaks many years ago. We only redid part of the roof, and so the remainder of the roof needs some attention. So they're just projects replacing the boilers. These are things that we're going to be talking about as we go on, but the point of the capital campaign is to raise those funds in addition to our typical operating budget so that we can, oh, Larry, you're on the council too. Sorry, Larry's also a new member on the council, was not up front to introduce himself, so I had to point that out. So if you have questions, you can also see Larry. Okay, so this is just something that we've been working on as council for a few years now. We've been looking at this as something that we are going to bring to the congregation because we see this as pivotal to the future of Grace as we continue to move forward through these times. We want to continue the amazing programming that we have going on here and in this amazing space. And so we have to take care of that, and this is the way that we're going to do that. Am I doing right now?
Yes.
Okay, so as I said, there are a lot of these projects that have been, we've been kicking the can down the road on these for a while. And so these are things that need to be addressed with the preschool in our space, the boilers and the air conditioning, which is all of the piece. That is something that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later. Their lighting that is going to have to be changed because thanks to some new laws that have been passed in the state of Minnesota, the lighting that we currently have is becoming obsolete. You're not going to be able to buy the replacement bulbs. So we're going to have to change some of those fixtures. There are things that are happening that we need to keep up with for our space. So that's why we're looking to do this now. Does anybody have anything else to add on that? Okay, then we will move on to the other purposes of the capital campaign, which is Todd or Melissa.
Okay, so the first big thing on our list is the boiler. And I think you've probably all heard about this in the past 6-12 months or so. Our sanctuary boiler was installed in 1979, which makes it 45 years old at Grace, but it was installed secondhand. So this is its second life, and it's not a cat, it's only got 2, and that life is coming to an end. Both our boilers, we do have 2 to heat various parts of this building. Both of them are inefficient. They're both old. They're suffering from failing parts. I know what that feels like. We can't any longer find parts for these boilers. They are so old and feeble. And while I hope I don't get replaced, we need to replace it. It's time. The past several years, we've paid for repairs and parts and labors just to keep it going because we need heat in the building in the winter. But we are all afraid it's not going to turn on in the fall. We've had this design study done, the original, the $50,000 that was proposed by the Boiler Task Force after a great deal of work, that was recommended by the council to the congregation, and that was supported in a vote by the congregation. That study is completed. That money also pays for ongoing maintenance of the project and supervision of the work. And now it's time to take the next step. Right, so here's the timeline. We're now in April. The preliminary study work has been completed. Next month, bids will be received, so this contract goes out. It's roughly a 2-week period. The Boiler Task Force representative I spoke with told me. That would be the one I live with. Bids will be received. The contract should be awarded. And in June, or more realistically July, but hopefully June, the work will start. Our goal is to have this finished, and we're told that that's a realistic goal, to have it finished by the start of the heating season, which officially in Minnesota is October 15th. So we need it finished then. I think I think that's all I got on boiler. You will have an opportunity to ask all the questions you want at the end. If you have something that's urgent, bring it up during the.
Sarah wants to talk a little bit to the boiler here.
Well, just what's in the blue box there, just that this is going to, because we're trying to do it ahead of actually launching the public phase of the capital campaign, we'll need to take out a short-term loan, which we've been approved for. Obviously, our hope is that that loan gets paid off real quick. So that all the funds that would come in first for the capital campaign would go directly toward paying off the short-term loan, but this would allow us to actually do the boiler project this summer, ahead of the fall. So one thing that I wanted to share in regards to that is that we have had a donor step up and contribute a lead gift of $25,000 toward the boiler project, with hopes that this will generate more generosity to get this boiler in. We will bless the old boilers and say thank you for your service, and we will be heated this winter. So I just wanted to share that piece of really good news that already we have a gift to start with, to get us started with the initial part of this process, and are hopeful that really this loan will not be for long due to the generosity of all of us coming together.
Okay, I'm just gonna double check the slide here to make sure that what I'm talking about is the right thing. Yeah. So the other big thing that I think most people, if not all people in this room know about, is that as part of balancing the budget, we changed staffing. And one of the things that changed in staffing is we no longer have a person in charge of children, youth, and family here at Grace. We've talked repeatedly about how it is a priority for this council, and I think a priority for the congregation at large, that we fix that. And as part of that, our goal is to work towards funding that position going forward. This one's a little bit more complicated than some of the other ones because we do have money. For those of you who went through the budget with a fine-tooth comb, you'll have noticed that we have money set aside for a youth pastor role that we still have to define yet, but we want to build that out and do a bigger, more robust role so that we can hire somebody right away who we're hoping for and who can fulfill the role that we're hoping for. So as part of that, we're putting money from the capital campaign into that role to make sure that we have enough money to fully staff it as we go forward, with the plan of rolling that money into the budget after 2 years. So again, we're not trying to raise a whole bunch of money to staff that position for the next 30 years. We're looking for a way to get that extra money that we need to get that role filled now, and then sustainably transition in the budget to being able to keep that role going as we go forward. So hopefully that makes sense. The goal is to interview and hopefully hire somebody this summer. That's part of why we're doing this, because if we want somebody ready to go in the fall, we pretty much have to move now. So we're hoping that with the funds from the capital campaign, we can put together a compelling enough position that we can get the person that we're looking for into the role that we're looking for. There are still details to be worked out on that. We haven't fully fleshed out what exactly the position is going to look like, but we've begun talking about that. So the idea is, hopefully as part of the capital campaign, we can boost that for the next couple years and then get ourselves going so that we have that position into a balanced budget permanently. I'll give this back to Melissa.
So what you see here is a picture of the tarps that are in place to protect our pieced together sound system, more on that later, from rain that comes in along roof lines. So in 2018, we replaced the flat portion of our roof. Many of you all remember that. And the other parts of the roof, shingles are worn, they're pulling off, they badly need replacement. So this is a fairly important, urgent need. I think that's all I have to say about our
Let
roof.
me just ask, are you putting these in the order of priority for
Somewhat.
Yes,
Somewhat.
mostly is the answer to that.
Okay,
I
thank you.
mean, as you can imagine, prioritizing all of this is a complicated process because it's not only about what we most want to do, what we most need to do, but it is also about how much of that capital campaign funding actually comes in, right? So we can only fund what we actually get the money for. So I would say the easiest way to look at this is the order that you're seeing these things in is the order in which we think the priorities would go once all of the money comes in, right? But then it's also complicated by factors like the boiler can't wait. We would also argue that the youth pastor position can't wait, right? These are things that we need to do right away. So it's a balancing act between what we think is the most important, how much money we have to do these things, and what the timeline is of how necessary they are. So actually a good example of that is the next one, which is our sanctuary lighting and sound. So the lighting in the sanctuary is not as strong as it could be. We hear from people regularly about it can get difficult to see the bulletins, it's difficult to see each other. And actually even on the recordings and everything that comes through, right? It's dim, it's dark in there. One of the things people also don't think about though is that those fixtures that are up there that are providing most of our light are up there, capital U up there. They're a long way up, so to make changes to those is expensive. You have to bring in equipment to be able to get people up that high to make those changes. We also have issues that incandescent lighting is becoming more and more difficult to find and to replace. So as we have to replace those, it's getting more expensive, and we're not far from the point where we won't be able to get them at all. So we have done, and that's the lighting. The sound, we have dead zones in the sanctuary. There are places where it's hard to hear. Again, that sound, we have lots of people who have lots of different abilities. So if you are having difficulty hearing already, then the sound isn't great. That's also complicating factors for a lot of people. We could absolutely do better with that. Just like our boiler, our sound system is a pretty old sound system. So we want to make that better. We want to bring it all together. Oh, good, you went to the next one. This is not our sanctuary. If you're looking at it and thinking, that looks weird, that's because it's not us. The lighting company that we're talking about going through gave us a couple of different examples of how the lighting has affected the areas that they've done work. I'm really close to this. It does seem like it's a little hard to tell, but these were the ones that were the closest to what we thought the sanctuary might look like, just to show kind of the distinction of how much brighter things are going to be. We chose not to use the hockey rink picture. That didn't seem as quite as effective. But you know, another important part of this is, part of being sustainable, part of keeping our budget balanced, is about bringing more people in. And a sort of dark, dismal sanctuary isn't helping us in that area. So having people come into a bright, inviting space would also be helpful. So that's, again, the sanctuary lighting and sound, and that is all. We're going to talk about more lighting and sound in a little bit, so I just want to clarify right up front that is all inside the sanctuary. So that's the sort of priority stage that we're at there. And I will give it back over to Melissa. We're just going to keep switching back and forth, surprise, surprise.
So related, of course, to the lighting and sound is the cameras and lighting. Many of us who attend in person are just not aware of the need for cameras, but we regularly get, 200 online views for a service. That's a lot of an online presence, which wasn't an issue even 10 years ago. So what we're envisioning, what has been envisioned by people who've worked on this, are spotlights, or something like spotlights, that can highlight areas like baptismal font. What else? Where was I? Musical ensembles and the pulpit, right? The pulpit. And this is going to enhance our in-person viewing as well as help greatly in our online congregants. We currently have 2 cameras. These have to be adjusted manually, which means a stepladder during worship. And this setup limits the views that can be provided, and it also limits the people who are willing to volunteer. So it's complicated. The goal here is 4 cameras that can be adjusted remotely. They can zoom, they can focus, they can pan out, and it would be a tremendous asset.
Okay, other property lighting. Lots and lots of lights to talk about today. The other thing that we need to do in terms of lighting is, Jenny alluded to this earlier, regulations have made it so that we cannot replace all of this incandescent lighting with fluorescent lighting with like for like. We can't get those anymore. We do have a stash that we can go through until it is gone, and then we have to start replacing bulbs and or replacing fixtures. We need to replace that with LED lighting, which is going to be both more efficient and more environmentally friendly, and again, also is going to be available, unlike the fluorescent bulbs that are in there. And so that's going to be all over the building. As you can see on here, we have 760 fixtures, so you can imagine that adds up relatively quickly that need to be replaced. But again, one of the benefits of this, and I didn't mention this with the sanctuary lighting, but it's the same thing. As we move to LEDs, one of the key benefits is that will also save us money over time, right? The bills that we pay for electricity will be lower because we're using less energy. So that's another part of the prioritization that we've done here, are things that are going to give us return on investment. Hopefully we should be able, and the boiler is another example of that. The boiler will be significantly more efficient. As gas prices continue to go up, that's going to be extremely important. So all of these things are not only thinking about today and what we can accomplish now, but they're going to help us keep that balanced budget that we fought so hard to get. So I will turn it back over to Melissa.
So, sorry, did the entire fixtures need to get replaced, or just the bulbs themselves?
I think the plan is the fixtures, right?
It's a mix.
Is it it's a mix. Okay.
It's a mix, yeah.
Yeah, because there are bulbs that you can do, but yeah, some of them as fixtures go, because the fixtures can go too, we'll also have to replace those. But we have some planned, I think, that are.
Some
Yeah.
will just do bulbs, and some will be the full.
Unless we get lots and lots more money than we expected, in which case maybe.
And we have a stash in the basement to hold us through for a little bit.
Let's back it up one. Anything? No? Oh, sorry, it's a minimal slide, but I've got a lot to say. About 10% of our capital campaign is marked for benevolence. Our operating budget has a small benevolence in it already for the synod, and the council is committed to increasing this teeny tiny little benevolence that we set aside this year. So that's one piece of benevolence. The model that we see for the benevolence money at Grace is council presenting to the congregation, say 2 to 4 possible causes to receive our gifts. For example, Minnesota medical debt, housing or food insecurity, immigration rights, LGBTQ plus rights, human rights. And coincidentally, our partner church in Guatemala is conducting their own capital campaign right now. They have 3 projects, just to mention these. Construction of a fellowship hall, replacement of their benches with pews that have backs, and a fence for their garden. And miraculously, 10,000 will cover their entire capital campaign. So it just highlights the differences. I want to say we are called to be Christ's love in the world. Not just at Grace, but in the world. And the phrase, think globally, act locally, I think applies to our congregation in this church. Combining our individual gifts enables something like my $25 donation to be part of a $5,000 donation, a significant gift to an organization that can do a lot with that. And combining our resources enables us to support a cause that has volunteer opportunities, like Every Meal, formerly known as the Sheridan Story, right? We have a partnership with Cedar Park Elementary. And I also, we have noticed that this congregation wants to give. Think about the Christmas Eve service, where it was a very generous offering that was collected and shared with refugee sheltering and aiding organizations. At Easter, it was, as Pastor Sarah or Pastor Reed mentioned already, it was Apple Valley Eco Advocates working towards sustainability that we shared with. And that brought out generosity in this congregation. And then also in March, we had Food Share Month, which was very generously responded to by our congregation. So that is one of the final pieces of the pie that's in front of you. I think we have one more piece that we'll get to in a minute.
Okay, before I speak to the mortgage reduction, I just want to add something on to what Melissa said, only because of who I am. When we talked about benevolence as part of the capital campaign, I was one of a few people who said, what? Why would we do this? What's the point? The whole point is we have work to do here at Grace that will help us perform our mission. Why would we take a percentage of that and give it away? People give already to different causes, so why would they want us to select the causes that they're going to give to so that then we just give it on again? And we had a lot of conversation about that. And there were a lot of reasons why I was wrong about that. But the one that I think stands out the most to me as a PR person in my other life is that the work that we do in the world is part of what lets the rest of this community see who we are. So yes, there is a very good biblical reason for us to do benevolence as part of our capital campaign, but there is also a very, very good growth reason for us to do that as part of our capital campaign. It allows us to do work that people out in the community will see and will see our name attached to and will come and find out more about us. So there's value there. There's a lot of value from a lot of different angles to benevolence. I was completely changed. I did a 180. I'm 100% behind it. And I also want to be clear, I wasn't the only one. But I'm willing to get up here and admit that. So. Great. So yes, beyond that, mortgage reduction. Our goal is we would love to put $200,000 of the capital campaign funds towards our mortgage to just take a chunk off of that, $1.75 million that we have to pay off over the next 30 years. You can see from this chart, it's not perfectly obvious, so I'll kind of walk it through. But the idea is this top line is the trajectory of our mortgage, right? 250 months, out here. This is making the assumption that in 2 years we have the $200,000 to cut down the mortgage. You can see it drops precipitously and cuts off, 42 months of payments that we would have to make. Now, $200,000 is not a cap. We would love to put more to the mortgage reduction, but $200,000 is what we think we can contribute from the amount of money that we're trying to raise all together. If we go above and beyond, we would love to pull this green line back even farther. But we do, and one thing that I want to point out with this is not only are we reducing the payback period, but for those of you who have been here through all of these things and listened to us talk about refinancing the mortgage, we're now at an adjustable rate, right? As we've learned really recently, it's tough to predict what's going to happen in the future. So the faster we can pay that mortgage off, the less likely it is that we end up in a place where we're paying an exorbitant rate for our mortgage. So we're really hoping that we can find those extra funds to sort of pull this line back. Do you want to do it or should we keep going? Am I? This you all should have in front of you, or at least somebody near you should have it in front of you. So this is our set of capital campaign goals. It's basically repeating everything that we just talked about except for one extra piece. So you can see the percentage of the $1.5 million we're hoping to raise, how much each of these sections is going to take up. The new one is this red one up at the top that says emergency. One of our other goals with this capital campaign is to be able to put aside money for an emergency fund. Instead of living check to check, so to speak, here at Grace, we're going to try and do what we think most of our congregation is trying to do at home as well, which is put some money aside so that when there is an emergency, we can do something about it, rather than having to come back to the congregation and say, we desperately need money because the stove broke, or the who knows what is leaking, or the bathrooms blew up, or whatever the case may be. We want to be able to have money put aside so that we can sustainably keep taking care of those things in the future. The other benefit to having a sizable chunk of money put aside is that if we can put that in a reasonable investment, there's a decent chance that that will start earning interest that will also help us have money to protect this place in the future. So we thought the only reasonable thing to do was to take at least some of our money and put it aside for a rainy day and hope that we can better meet the challenges that we know are going to come. Even if we could completely rehab this building and start everything from new, it doesn't matter. Things happen, there will be problems that'll come up. Having something put aside to take care of that would be helpful. So I think with that, the parking lot, yes, okay. The other thing that I need to mention is that one of the pieces that we threw back and forth as we talked about when are we going to get these things done and how are we going to get these things done and how can we allocate all this money, is that our parking lot is a hot mess and needs to be resurfaced and has needed to be resurfaced for a very long time. So we were putting that back and forth, and of course that's one of those ones that's a real challenge because you think, oh, well, we can probably live with it the way it is, but then what if something happens? And it's only going to get more expensive as things get harder to do. We have two members, Helen Ricks and an anonymous donor, have given the funds that we need to take care of the parking lot. The resurfacing, curb construction, is all taken care of. The handicapped curb, that's right, yes. Do you want to?
Just adding an additional accessible.
Yeah, so we can get people in and out easier too. So all of this has been taken care of, and it was taken care of similarly to what we talked about before, with the hopes that this will kickstart a good giving campaign. They, like everybody in this room, wants to see this place thrive, and they're hoping that getting us started like that will show that people can be generous, people can really dig deep and give, and that we can really make great things happen. So both of those projects will happen in May of 2025. So that's good news. Yeah, Jim.
Talking about handicap access, is that right outside here?
I think it's this one, isn't it? Yeah.
So right now, there's just one square, right by the doors. We'll be adding at the end of the sidewalk here, so those who park along other parts of the parking lot.
So you only got the one access with that grid?
Correct, yeah.
So there'll be a ramp at the end of the sidewalk right up here.
Gotcha, okay.
Oh, nice.
Great. I am going to hand this over to Doug and Pastor Sarah to talk about the timeline. You also have, the timeline is on the back of here.
Yeah, as you can see, the initial campaign team has been formed. There's 2 members already that we've corralled or invited.
They volunteered.
They volunteered. They jumped up and said, and so they're planning. And so actually the campaign is really starting here in May and June. As you can see on the slide there, in July and August, we're hoping for a real good kickstart. Some significant giving, some significant gifts. So we, as you talked earlier, we have that boiler project that has to be paid for when it's done. And so we're going to need some money. We'd like to pay off the short-term loan and get that going. And then in September and October is the official launch. And that's what we're going to be asking our members for pledges. And as we said, it's a 3-year campaign, but that doesn't mean we can't get all the gifts in 1 year, which would be really nice, wouldn't it? But the pledges and gifts, we're hoping to start in those next few months. And then over the next 2 or 3 years, we're looking to complete it. And like I said, we really, and others have said too, we all have to dig deep into this thing because everything that we're talking about here isn't something we just want, it's something we need. And we're looking forward to everybody joyfully giving for this. Pastor Sarah?
I just want to introduce and share with you the two people who have stepped up to be the co-chairs of the capital campaign. Michael Olivier is one of them. Thank you, Michael. Not cajoled, but delightfully invited. Yes. And then Paula Albright is the other one. Paula is on vacation this weekend, so not able to be with us. But Paula and Michael will be spearheading the work of the capital campaign team. Yes, that's an applause. And then we are in the process of lining up. The way this will work is that the capital campaign team will consist of the chairs of several sub-teams. And then those sub-teams will meet separately. And so the sub-teams that we're forming, I'm just gonna list these, and if there's one that grabs your interest or that you think you would have some time and energy to serve in, I will hang around, or send me an email.
You should probably rush, because you want to lock in whatever spot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Make sure
This is competitive. Yeah. So the lead gift team, which actually we already have leaders of that team. The Brandells will be leading the lead gift team. The communications team, we have leaders for that as well. Melissa Lowe and Will Morgan have stepped up to be leaders of communications. So these are the ones that remain. Hospitality team, special events team, spiritual life team, and worship planning team. So we'll be putting together in the coming weeks some more descriptions of each of those teams, like what that exactly means. I'm learning this too as we go along, like what each of these teams, the purpose that they'll serve. But we are going to try to line up those chairs in the next 2 weeks so that the initial kind of capital campaign team can kick off with its first meeting middle of May. And then we'll be forming the teams May into June with hopes that those teams can get to work and get us clear with our planning for the fall.
Can you repeat those teams since there's no slide?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So we're looking for chairs for hospitality, special events, spiritual life, and worship planning. But we would take members of those four as well as the lead gift team and the communications team.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thank you.
Right. It says questions and feedback Todd facilitates, which I don't remember being the case, but apparently Todd facilitates here. So, but yeah, we do want to talk to you all about what you've heard and get feedback, and we want to answer your questions to the extent of our ability. So at this point, I think what I'll probably do you want to grab the other mic around, or we could
Just run around.
So if you have questions or feedback, all right, Stasha, I think, because there's a light shining off that car windshield in the back. It's Stasha, right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So wait. All right, so this is Stasha. So for those of us who give online regularly towards Breeze, like we have a regular payment towards the operating budget, would we then make a separate line item, like regular payment towards the capital campaign, or would we just increase that single pledge and communicate what fraction is towards operating and what fraction is towards capital?
I think the answer to that question is yes, but I'm going to look to Sarah. She is probably the best one.
you want to give it.
Yeah, that's a great question, Sasha. Yes, we will be forming a separate fund that you would give to outside of what you give to for the operating fund.
Got it.
And we haven't set that up yet, for obvious reasons, but it will be set up and it'll be clear that a separate donation is going to the capital campaign.
Any other questions I don't know the answer to? Yes.
So I know, I'm Matt Opitz, and I know estate gifts and planned gifts are a large part of any capital campaign. Can you kind of speak to how, since the needs are so pressing, how is there any value to a beneficiary status for a retirement or something like that?
Wonderful.
Asking the challenging questions.
Yeah, no, this is great. So I'm going to start off with the easy answer to that question, which is there is never a bad time for a beneficiary or estate gift. In fact, it is one of the places where this congregation could really use a little boost at this point. We've done, I know, some forums about that already, and we'll continue to do that work as we go forward. In terms of directly connected to the capital campaign, I'm unfortunately far enough away from my retirement that I don't know how that works yet. Is there anybody who knows how to answer that question? Bob! Bob looks like someone who can answer.
Closer to the retirement age. Well, it's always a good time to designate the church in someone's will. And the endowment people will be happy to address that with you. But for this campaign, what some people are able to do is make a qualified charitable contribution from a tax-free asset to the church. And many of us are doing that now with our regular giving, but you can also have them designate that for the capital campaign. And it can be in any form. It can be a lump. It can be a leadership gift this July and August to help defray the cost of getting the boiler in before the heating season. Or it could be so much each year for 3 years. So that's one of the simple ways I know it can be done. Anybody else have any other ideas that work for them? Thanks.
Still keep giving it back to me.
That's okay.
Great question though. And again, yeah, I do want to reiterate it's a really important way for people to give and a really good way for people to give that can be really beneficial to this place. So that's a really great thing to bring up. Good. I saw other hands. So yes, send a microphone your way.
We'll make sure we're following up with the different, Michael's right
yes.
here, so.
Trying to take a few notes.
Yep, okay.
Is there a concern with maintaining a balanced budget and yet supporting a full-time youth and family ministry position? Because we found ourselves having to cut back, and then, so how is that gonna work?
No, that's a great question.
2 years out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is finally a question I know how to answer. That yes, there's always a concern, right? Because balancing the budget was an extremely difficult task. So I guess there's a multiple part answer to that question. While yes, it is something we're concerned about, the way that the budget works and the organization that we've worked with in terms of the capital campaign, they have a lot of experience with church finances. They've given us a lot of help and a lot of focus as we've gone through. And we are able to anticipate, and of course, anticipate is always a dangerous word, but we're able to anticipate a certain percentage of growth that will continue to happen as Grace continues over the years. So that's one thing that is factored into our ability to continue to fund that position, assuming, we didn't get any money from the capital campaign whatsoever. But the way that we've worked it out is, like I mentioned in the slide when we talked about that role, the goal is that we can bolster that role early with funds from the capital campaign so that we can effectively get to where we expect to be 2 years from now, so we can hire that person. Because the alternative is either putting out a part-time position and then hoping that person's willing to roll into a bigger role down the road, if we can find that person at all, which isn't necessarily an easy task. And then that would be the best of all possible worlds in that situation. The alternative is maybe getting somebody and then having to change that person out 2 years down the road, upsetting things with what's been working and what's been going on, or not finding somebody at all and delaying something that we think is a really, really essential part of what we're trying to do. So, again, I guess the answer is yes. There's always worry about balancing the budget. But between the math that we've looked at and what is already in there, because it's important to recognize the budget is not starting from zero on that position. So as we changed that role out this year, we had money set aside for a part-time role. And that's allocated in the budget already and will continue to be. So we're adding to that.
Tag team. We also have, if you remember, the $50,000 that was included in this year's budget to pay for the design study and the ongoing support as the new boiler is put in. And that $50,000 was right in our operating budget. So in council deliberations, we have this in the back of our minds that that money can also supplement for CYF, for the children, youth, and family position.
Right.
Well, that just confused me because you had completed, you're gonna use the money current, okay, so the upcoming funding for the boiler will include that 50. So how did you spend the 50,000 and get an assessment?
The 50,000 that council recommended on the recommendation of the boiler task force was voted on by the congregation.
I know.
It's just a preamble, hold on. To pay for the preliminary design study that has been all but completed. So that's not money for the boiler. That was for the study that assures us that we right size and right locate.
So the 50,000 is spent.
Yes, but next year it won't be.
Yeah.
It's a line item in the budget right
Okay.
now, so it will have to be reallocated.
Okay, I get it now. It's next year.
Yeah, so for this year, for 2025, that is spent. But for 2026, that $50,000 doesn't have a place because hopefully we don't have to do another boiler assessment.
We will find a place
So,
for it.
yeah.
It has places.
Yes, it has places. There's many places.
Oh, yeah,
sorry.
I'm gonna piggyback on that. Yeah, Eileen Casey Zard. I just wanted to piggyback on this whole thing when we brought this up. If we don't have the money this summer for this position, do we have to take out another short-term loan for that? Or how are we anticipating? I know, been a member for way too many years, that the attendance in the summertime goes down. I am pretty leery about getting in the lead gifts during the summertime. I really am. It's just me. But so how do we take out another loan for this person?
No, we will not be taking, I mean, the way that we're seeing it, and council, correct me if I'm wrong here, because I probably will be, but the way that I see that this will work is we're going to be hiring in this summer for a fall position. So we will be close to the 2026 calendar year at that point. We still have money left this year that wasn't spent from that position that should, I would think, be able to.
Summer?
What was that? I'm sorry.
It was in the budget.
Yes, in the budget for the role because the previous role ended early, so there's money left there. Then in the 2026 calendar year, we will have that allocated funding again because it's a line item in the budget. Plus, if we have not caught up with the capital campaign, we'll have an additional $50,000 that we can use because we're not using it for a boiler, whatever you call it again, boiler assessment again. That should get us through that year. Then ideally, if we're getting capital campaign funding coming in, that should allow us to either ease off, either that $50,000 gets reallocated somewhere else and we can start putting that money in. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can do it going forward, but that's going to be every year. We have to relook at the budget and figure out how we're going to do it. But we feel confident that that is doable. And to be perfectly honest, we need that role. We don't really have a choice. And there isn't other money, right? So the choices are, we try what we're thinking here, and we hopefully get the best of all possible worlds in replacing that role, or we wait a couple of years. And wait a couple of years is not what the priorities we put forward as a council was. Other questions?
I just think it
I have a comment.
Thanks for your concern about attendance goes down in the summer, but I'm very confident that we are going to get our leadership gifts starting this June and July. And many of those are going to come from the people in this room who takes so much time to learn more about what we're trying to do. All of us are trying to do. This is going to support our church for decades to come. And so I think there's enough positive interest that if we have people with these qualified distributions or however it comes, the more of that happens in July and August, imagine if we had enough money that came in leadership gifts that we didn't need a short-term bridge loan for the boiler project. Wouldn't that be cool? So I'm confident that we can have it, even though attendance goes down in the summer.
And I think I just want to speak to that a little bit too, that the acquiring of lead gifts is going to we'll go about that a couple different ways. One will be by having a couple events where we share more of the story and invite leadership gifts, but also several individual visits. So that will be on the basis of people's availability. When can we stop by or give you a call to have a conversation about supporting the campaign? So we're not relying on, a full sanctuary and public announcements. It's going to be more intentional and more deliberate on the basis of individuals. And then the public phase will launch when people have closed their cabins and are back to church. So that would be more when we would be relying on more people in the space.
Good. Additional questions or comments? This has all been great. Yes.
One more about how the monies will be distributed. So initially, when money starts coming in, it's all going to go towards the boiler? Because you said this is kind of prioritized the way you explained it, or is it going to be a little bit of piecemeal?
Actually, Melissa, go ahead. I'll let you.
Yeah, we talked, thank you for that question, because I understand that what Pastor Sarah said was, as the money comes in, it all goes to the boiler, or maybe it could be interpreted that way. That's not quite it. These other priorities that we've set, for example, children, youth, and family ministry, that's right there, and that will be funded. We are hiring, God willing, someone this summer, right, to start in the fall. So that, what else is
the first year, it's really those two were the big ones. You can kind of see it actually, the way we did it, to give you a little insight into our breakdown, is we have things broken out by years of the capital campaign. It actually starts pre-capital campaign, so this 2025 early giving, and then 2026, 2027, 2028. And we have stuff grouped in each of those. So everything is prioritized in the order that you saw here, basically the exact same order that it came through in the slide deck. So hopefully we will have enough money to pay off the entire boiler loan right away. But again, along with that is the role for children, youth, and families. So we're going to be juggling a little bit, but those are you can imagine the order that it's going to go in, kind of in small chunks. I don't remember exactly what fell into which year at this point.
So it is prioritized as presented, but some of those categories or those causes that get a piece of the pie fall into every single year, recognizing that the boiler loan may have to be paid back. We're not going to pay it all back. If that's all right, if that's everything we get in the first year, there are other pieces that are important enough that they have to be at least partially funded. Does that make sense?
Something else, real quick, and then we'll come over to you. The one thing I don't think we mentioned, and I apologize if I'm repeating this, because maybe we did, but the $1.5 million goal that we set is based on the calculations that were done by the organization that we worked with, which was Brenda Moore and Associates at the time. Brenda Moore has, I believe, retired, and now it's called something else, but that doesn't matter. But it is a data-driven system that they use to determine what this congregation is capable of giving, what we're likely to get. 1.5 million, and correct me again if I'm wrong, Council, but I believe was pretty much in the middle to the middle conservative side of what they suggested we could get. So our hope is that we will actually bring in significantly more money. But because of everything we've gone through with balancing the budget, with the years and years of sort of poor planning, we wanted to stick with the more conservative choice. So our hope is that actually we'll do quite a bit better than this.
It's over 3 years. Too.
Over 3 years, yes.
My name is Marilyn Apple. The concept of adding a campaign to the current giving process, what if somebody really wants sound? Because they're not hearing very well and they come to church every week. Okay, what if somebody really has children who want a youth pastor locked in?
This is a really good question.
And we don't care about heating right now because it's, you're not sure. But we have people like that have specific mindsets. I'm not one of those because you need to direct them to make it work.
Yeah.
And so the youth and family is higher than the roof in my opinion. So the youth and family has to be, like if somebody really wants that, they should be able to give to that and not give to the 400,000. You know what I'm saying?
I totally know what you're saying. In fact, as you said, you're not one of those people. I am. Children, youth, and family is my number one thing that I want to see. And so what I am going to do is I'm going to give to the capital campaign so that we achieve our $1.5 million goal and we can do all the things that we need to do. Because all of the things that we need to do are things that we need to do. There's not a single one on this list that doesn't, capital N, need to happen. So I get that. I love the idea that people are enthused about certain things, but one of the things that we struggled with as a council this year is that our memorial fund, some of our other funds, all have these little things we're tied to. I gave money for this. I want more music for the choir. I want, I don't know, lots and lots of different things. And the problem is what we end up with is a lot of money allocated to a lot of different things, but not enough to do any of the big stuff. We need the big stuff. It has to happen. We've neglected this building. We've neglected a lot of things for a long time. So the decision, I think, is that we really need to come at this from the perspective of we all need to come together to support each other. So I'm hoping that the people who really, really, really want better sound in the sanctuary are willing to say, you know what? I know there are people who want a youth pastor just as badly as I want this. So I'm going to support those people, and I'm going to hope that they support me as I give my money. And I think, in fact, I am totally confident that that is the case, and that's how this will shake out. So I do get it, and we talked at length about whether or not we wanted to let people allocate for specific things. But I think in the long term, the best plan is really to just target that larger goal and to make sure that we can get everything done, because I think we can.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm new back here, so I just have a question. It seems pertinent. Does the church here throughout the year do other fundraising events that people could get involved in to help with this?
Yes, so we do lots of fundraising throughout the year. There are, let's see, I mean, things that I can think of are the craft fair, the big sale is part of that, the brat sale at Von Hansen's, chili cook-off. What else? There are all sorts of things. And again, though, in most cases, and this kind of gets to what we were just talking about, those funds are allocated to specific things, right? And so this is what we've been talking about literally for 3 years now on council, is how do we solve for the things that we want to do that aren't those things, right? Because we can't take that money. If we try and take the brat sale money and give it to something else, there will be an uprising, right? So we need to find a way to bring those things together. But that said, there are many, many places. Oh, the LEFSA thing, I can't believe nobody said LEFSA too. You can make LEFSA to your heart's content. But there are lots and lots of ways to volunteer. And this is another thing that we want, actually we weren't clear enough about today, and so I'm really glad that you asked this. We talked a lot about money today. But it's also really important to recognize, and this ties into what Michael's doing and what the Brandells are doing, it's also really important to volunteer your time to help us with this. We can use people's time, it's extremely important. We can also use people to join council in the future. I can't do this forever. All of us, we can't do this forever. You can help make these decisions. It's a great time, I promise you. But yeah, so please, if you are looking, did that come out wrong? If you are looking for ways to be involved, we want to help you get involved. Talk to any member of council, talk to Pastor Sarah, talk to Pastor Reed. We all have 1,000 ideas for things you can do, and I'm sure one of them is something you'll be excited about.
Yeah, be clear, I have a question, I'm loud enough.
I said that last time too, and they made me.
Why emergency rather than endowment?
People on the.
Why emergency rather than endowment?
Because we need money we can access quickly when something goes wrong. That for whatever we need it for, we can grab. Again, if the stove blows up and we need a new stove, which is new, so hopefully that won't happen. But if it did, we need something we can grab the money quickly and say, this money's allocated to fix things. Let's do this, get it done right now.
Yeah.
Do not put that out there in the universe.
Matthew opens again with another question. So, when we raise over $1.5 million, when we succeed and go over our goal, putting that up, will the percentages here kind of dictate where that goes, or are there supplemental priorities that the council and the committee would then consider if we raise more than 1.5 million?
That's a really good question. As of right now, the 1.5 million should cover this. The exception to that is I think, and I keep saying this, correct me if I'm wrong, council, but I think one of the priorities after that is to pump more money into early payoff of the mortgage.
Yes.
That would be our first priority based on what we've been looking at. So to be 100% crystal clear, that $200,000, which shortens us by 40 payments or whatever, that was a lot less than we wanted to put in there. We wanted to do a lot more than that, but we also have a lot of things we need to do. So I think it's safe to assume that money from there. Now, if we raise an additional 1.7 million on top of the 1.5, and then more money comes in after that, I'll meet with everybody in this room, and you can all shout your ideas at me. We'll do it auction style, whatever. But so let's just get 4.5 million, and we won't have to worry about it.
Exactly.
All right. Other questions? Comments? Yeah.
My name is Dick Donnell, and I just want to say thank you to the council and to Todd. We've been members here for 50 years, and we've seen ups, we've seen downs, but the reality of it is, it's on the council's yoke. I mean, it's on their burden. And they do a fine job, so thank you.
Any other things that won't feel awkward? No, thank you very much, Dick. I appreciate it. And actually, I want to say, Judy did this before me. So you started us on this path. So it takes multiple councils over multiple years. Eventually I will be gone and somebody else will have to continue to shepherd this through. So like I said before, step up. We'd love to have you.
Just going to put out there that we did on the council think of some questions that we thought might come up. Some of them are in these packets. And there are some additional ones that were not asked during the session. So those will be available for everybody to have as you're going out. And I'm sure that things will come up as you leave and think, oh, I wish I'd asked that question. Check the FAQ sheet, see if it's in there. If not, then do please contact one of us and we will get you an answer.
And don't be afraid to stop us and ask questions. I mean, this is something we've been working a long time on, a lot of hours really hard, and we're actually weirdly excited to talk about it. So if you have questions, we're happy to answer them. So Jenny's not excited. No, we are. We're all. Great. Well, if there's no further questions, then Thank you all for attending. This was really helpful. We need to do a closing prayer before anybody goes. So that was on the sheet. You can't go anywhere. Bob will take us.
Thank you all for your attendance today, and let's pause for a word of prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you for the presence in this community that is Grace Lutheran Church. Thank you for all of the work we do and the work we're going to do in the future. We appreciate your work through us to keep the facility present for decades to come, so we can continue your work in the world and in this community. And now send us forth in joy to do your work outside. Amen.
Amen.